Hello, 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 and welcome back, cute cosmic baddie. And if you're a new cosmic baddie, welcome. My name is Catherine, and I welcome you. So I'm excited for today's podcast. For the ones who know me, you fucking know me, and you know this is like one of my favorite podcasts to record. And we're getting into the astrology for the fucking month of September of 2025. Okay, I'm just going to say, I don't know. Like, I am such a summer baby. And one of the reasons why I'm a summer baby, I've come to the conclusion is one of the reasons why I'm just a summer baby is because I was born in the end of winter. You know, winter is coming. It's like a lot of times, like when you're planning a birthday and you are a winter baby, it's kind of like a little sketch because you're like, I can't really do it outside. Maybe if you ever go to the club, like if we ever went to the club during my birthday, there was like a chance it's fucking raining. There's also a chance that like it's cold as shit. And like, who wants to wear a mini skirt and look like a total fucking hoochie when it's fucking cold? Me, bitch. Me, bitch. Get your fucking Uggs and let's go. But anyways, so I love summer. I'm a summer fanatic. Like, I just love the warm weather, not hot, but the warm weather. I do love margaritas, like a margarita, pina colada, bitch, by the pool. I'm fucking loving it. But we're wrapping this fucking summer up. And I know you fall bitches are like so ready for it. And I will say, if I had a second season to love, it would definitely be autumn and fall all the way, 100%. I like winter because, you know, winter feels dreamy. It feels mystical. It feels magical. It feels very cold-hearted. But fall is just beautiful, like especially if you're like in one of the areas where all the fall leaves are just occurring, the colors are changing right before death is about to occur to many of the leaves. It's just beautiful, right? The fall colors, the history of fall, the energy of all the witchiness, the pumpkin spice. Bitch, yes, I do get a pumpkin spice. I'm not a basic pumpkin spice like person. Like, I'm not going to be outside of Starbucks the day of and be like, where the fuck is my pumpkin spice? No, I'll just get a fucking pumpkin spice donut from somewhere. I mean, I just love it. I just love it. But this summer went by like lightning fast. I don't know if it was me or I don't know if it was you. I'm just like, where the fuck did summer go? We're already hitting a fall. So let's get into the astrology for September of 2025. Now, I will tell you, I started to read some of it. You know, I like to skim it before I actually record this podcast. But for the most part, the first time of me going through the dates is with y'all, is with my cosmic baddies, with my crew. And the first week, I'm like, what the fuck? Okay, but we'll get into that later. Because those who know me, we're going to do a reflection. We're going to do a reflection of August. I picked some topics that I think serves this cosmic energy well, and definitely some topics that I would like to talk about. Okay, so the beginning of August, the end of July, we had some controversies with Sydney Sweeney, the girl from Euphoria. And Sydney Sweeney, she is not new to controversy. A lot of people have come out for her. There's been some posts with her family before posting photos with the MAGA hats, the Trumpster hats, and a lot of people, you know, they feel like she's very Trumpish, okay? And like I said, people who like Trump, they fucking like Trump. And people who don't like Trump, they don't like Trump, and they don't like anybody who fucking supports Trump. That's basically the way it goes. Well, Sydney Sweeney's new campaign with American Eagle that happened right around July 23rd. But I'll be honest, I didn't really hear of it till July of 28th, was really making this tagline of almost like white supremacy slash privilege slash, blonde hair, blue eyed. We got to talk about it. Just people were very upset. So Sydney Sweeney, the tagline was basically she has great genes, and she was in a commercial like with her American Eagle jeans. And then they talk about this in the commentary of the ad. It goes, genes are passed down from parents to offspring, often determining traits like hair color, personality, and even eye colors. My genes are blue, Sydney says in the video, right? And a lot of people lost their fucking shit, like just fucking lost their shit. And then the ad just goes on and basically proclaims Sydney Sweeney, has great genes and always was about the genes. And this message was kind of like shared on her Instagram story. And when I tell you, she got a lot of backlash. But I want to talk about something. And I don't know how people are going to feel about this topic, but this topic is very, very true. So colorism in Latin communities, colorism in African American communities, colorism is fucking real. Racism is fucking real. Could this ad been a little bit kind of centered off supremacy, because the fact that Sydney Sweeney was a white girl with blonde hair, blue eyes, and she's talking about she got good genes. I can see how people were definitely offended. But also what I want to talk about is people fucking going insane gave this campaign like so much more publication, because then everybody's fucking running to the internet to find out what the fuck is going on. Now, we all know, we're not going to be naive here. We all know that America is centered off of the whiteness of the world, right? For me, I am very, I guess you could say, white passing. My mom is basically white. She is Italian, which is basically white. She's a form of Latin, but it's very light Latin. She's not indigenous. My dad is. So a lot of people would see me probably as mixed. They don't know what I am. They're like, what are you? I always get asked, what am I? Don't worry about it. I'm fucking beautiful, right? But I can see how this upset a lot of people. Now, my sister, throw my sister in here, she is blonde hair, blue eyes. Her hair has gotten darker since she's gotten older, but for the most part, she's blonde hair, blue eyes. To me, she looks Latin. She looks Hispanic. She looks like she doesn't look, her features are very tied into an indigenous population. She's got the nose. We all got the wide nose. We all got the chubby cheeks. We all got the feature of a very, from my dad, very indigenous, round cheeks, round round attire everywhere else too. But basically, it complements her well, but people are still very confused. But the fact that they said your genes are, basically what makes you and is passed down from parents, that is kind of true. That is kind of true. There's nothing that we can do about our genes. There's nothing we could do about who we are, how people perceive us. But we do have to acknowledge that colorism is there, it's out, it's alive, and it's affecting a lot of communities. Just like people always Google and gogging about blue-eyed babies and green-eyed babies, and over here, the brown-eyed baby's getting no love. You never ever hear anybody say, oh my gosh, that baby's got some beautiful dark brown eyes. Rarely. It's always about the green-eyed, blue-eyed babies. Everybody else gets fucking a hot cake and a burrito. I mean, it's just ridiculous. But anyways, because that doesn't make a person. It really doesn't. But, this whole controversy just went so crazy and it literally blew this whole ad campaign up. We all know that America likes blonde hair, blue eyes. We all know that's the aesthetic of America, of the USA. That is the aesthetic. Meanwhile, the true natives don't get nothing, right? Don't get no representation of beauty in mainstream media. It's been like this for years. Yes, we could talk about it, but the fact that so many people ran to the internet to go see this ad, and then of course the white people were like, yeah, I agree. Yeah, she does have beautiful, because they relate to her. So yeah, she does have beautiful genes. So now I'm going to go out and buy a bunch of American Eagle jeans. So American Eagle did not apologize whatsoever. They're like, why should we? We just made a shitload of money. So this is my thing. If people didn't run to the internet to go freaking be so offended, this ad would have probably went nowhere because the majority of the population, no offense, is not checking for American Eagle genes and is definitely not checking for Sydney Sweeney. I'm just saying. So they allowed this energy to feed that campaign because if people were just like, oh God, and just rolled their eyes and kept on swiping, guess what? It would have went nowhere. But we're the ones who fed to that, and we're the ones who fed that energy back in. Yes, colorism is real. Yes, racism is real. But the thing is, us putting so much energy into something like this, into that ad, literally blows it up. In fact, what people should be doing is selling their stories, sharing their stories, showing how being different has helped them, showing how being the non-traditional American cookie cutter, blonde hair, blue eye has really created a area of growth for them, showing and sharing their obstacles. So people with the dark hair, the dark skin, the dark eyes feel like they have an alliance with somebody else, because all we see is people saying that's not fair. We know it's not fair. Life is not fair. But us feeding so much energy into it allowed this energy and this ad to grow. And I'll be honest, yes, I think it was kind of a waste because, in all honesty, I think if people didn't get so upset, the ad probably would have went nowhere, and it basically wouldn't have really happened to create such big sales. And this was happening like the beginning of August around Venus in Cancer squares Neptune in Aries. And then we see that area of identity, and we also see that area of relationships, especially around the feminine and the area of delusions. And we also see that Venus in Cancer squared Saturn in Aries too. So we see that area of harmony of relationships working and also our own identity. So our relationship with ourselves is the most important. So who gives a fuck what Sydney Sweeney is doing? And who really cares about American Eagle? Now, two gene companies went out and kind of, targeted that ad and made spoofs, and they used very more diverse populations of people. So that was the Gap and also Old Navy. And they basically were like, we have good genes too. So if you want to check that out, make sure you do that. So also around this time, when we're talking about relationships and identity, we have the T app. Now, I never heard of the T app. I don't date, okay? So I don't even know what the T app is about. But apparently the T app was hacked. Now, the T app is where people go and spill tea about basically women. Women go and spill tea about men they've dated, basically meaning like he's a cheater, there's been some DV in this relationship, or he's just not a good guy, right? And they also have like these groups on Facebook where they kind of do the same thing. I think it's interesting, but a lot of men were finding out which women were posting about them. And of course, they were getting very upset. And then there was a lot of controversy about should women be able to basically post men on the T app and talk about them, basically talk about them and say, um, all the things that they've done in the relationship, or is that kind of like an invasion of privacy? Now, women are going to talk. Women have been talking for years. A lot of time, most women know who are the serial cheaters, but it is a little harder, right? Because if you don't know everybody in the community, you're not going to know if the guy you're dating might be married, right? Or might be a cheater, or might have past history of being very controlling or abusive. But this T app is allowing women to basically search men that they could possibly be dating, and they like give them a rating. I personally think, I mean, it's all like, go ahead. Because a lot of these men out here are running around and they're not protecting themselves, and they're having all these children. And not just that, but they're contracting a lot of STDs. Like, STDs are on the rise. And for women who think that they're in a committed relationship and then they all of a sudden attract an STD, it's like, oh shit. Oh shit. I wish somehow I was warned. I wish somehow I knew. I mean, a lot of times I feel like there should be somewhere where women can kind of do a background check on people that they're dating, besides just like, does he have credit that's outstanding, and has he committed any felonies? But like, almost like they're dating past history, because there's a huge chance that a man who's been like cheating and just doing all kinds of fuckery is going to continue to do a bunch of fuckery, basically all his life, until probably the day he kilos and dies. And that was happening again around the Venus in Cancer squares Saturn in Aries, and also the Venus in Cancer squares Neptune in Aries. Now, another one who got hit with this energy quite hard was Shannon Sharpe. So he was being sued for $20 million after the former ESPN star shamed a woman over a viral flirty video with Usher. And he wrongfully alleged that her husband left over the incident. So the woman who sued him basically said that him and Ocho Cinco created these fabrications to, shame her. And she, in fact, is not married. So he created a false narrative about her marital status, and she settled this lawsuit for $50 million. Also with Shannon Sharpe, he's not been having a good year. Honestly, he's not having a good year. He also had a settlement with an OnlyFans model that he had a relationship with, and she basically said that he was very abusive, very controlling, and she basically went after him, and he had to pay her. He then was fired from ESPN, and we just really see how these relationships of intimacy and also relationships around the feminine really kind of played out with him. What's interesting about him when we look at the time that this occurred, right in the beginning of the month, and having the Venus in Cancer squares Neptune in Aries, and also the Venus in Cancer squares Saturn in Aries, we're talking about responsibilities, and we're also talking about areas of influence. And it is believed that he is a sun in Cancer and a moon in Cancer, making him that new moon kind of energy. It sounds like the moon was kind of breaking down, but he, from what I'm seeing from astro charts, has a huge Cancer stellium. So this was also occurring with not just the sun energy, but also his Venus, because he has a Venus in Cancer and a Mars in Cancer with a Saturn in Aries. So he is in some ways starting to go through a Saturn return. I didn't pull up his chart and compare it to the timeline, but Saturn is currently in retrograde when this story broke in Aries, which is definitely affecting him, and it is believed that it is affecting him with a majority of movements. And I do not know his ascendant, so I do not know the actual house placements, but I definitely think that this is going to affect him. I know right now, a lot of people saying that Shannon Sharp isn't going nowhere. People really like him. And for the most part, I like his commentary. I loved the podcast with him and Cat Williams. That really blew him up. But for the most part, I think he needs to do some type of energy clearing. I think he needs to do some kind of realization that just because he's been successful for this long and he's created such a energy of movement and strength, and he is seen as a role model. And when you are seen as a role model and you are seen as somebody who has influence in the community of your community, you need to really do some self-realization and understand, who are you modeling for? Who are you creating that area of inspiration for? And if you are creating more disharm, then you need to do some pure focus. Also, another thing that was definitely occurring around this time was Mars enters Libra. And then we had Aubrey O'Day was overcoming with emotions. Now, Aubrey O'Day is the girl from Danny King. After learning that Diddy's, possibly could be definitely going through possibly like an easy release, right? And also there was scenes of Aubrey O'Day with a recent documentary where she found out that he was arrested. And this was all kind of going viral around this time. Now, I think this speaks volume with the Mars entering Libra, and I don't know her sign, but Danny Kane Singer was featured on a July 30th episode of Botched, and it showed the final moments of the show where she was finding out that he was arrested. And according to this energy, she was like, oh my gosh, right? Everybody heard her say like, oh my God. And she got very emotional, and she's like, Diddy got arrested. He's taken into federal custody in New York. And clearly she was like very overwhelmed. So, and she was like shaking, and she's like, never in my life that I thought this was happening. And I'll be honest, like, I think Diddy might get us, like, I don't think he's going to do life. But I do think that he is going to get some sentencing that is definitely going to be maybe 5 to 15. And we'll see. We will see if he tries to rebrand himself. But I think he's done from the entertainment business. And it just shows like how much of an influence he had on her, and how he had an influence on people in that genre, in that area of work of the entertainment business. Also, there was a lot of talk about Trump. So around August 10th, Mars in Libra trines Pluto in Aquarius, and visitors in the White House will no longer see the official portraits of former President Barack Obama, and I believe also former President George W. Bush. And George H.W. Bush have all been removed from the same area. So Trump apparently does not want people to see their portraits. Trump is just a fucking weirdo. I honestly just like, he's just so petty. Like the Gemini in him just can't. He just cannot. So according to sources, the President Donald Trump personally directed nearly all the White House staff to remove the portraits. So that was definitely some controversy. I feel like he tries to change history, and there's certain things you just cannot change. Also, a topic that came up was Shar Kari Richardson incident. So Sha'Carri incident, Richardson's incident was basically she was leaving. Now she's an Olympian. So she was leaving, I guess, last month, a airport. And this was released that she basically was accused of assaulting her boyfriend, Christian Coleman, at the Seattle Tacoma International Airport, which resulted in her being arrested. And TMZ released the video. And the video shows like she was definitely the aggressor. And the man was basically like trying to avoid conflict with her. And she definitely was the aggressor. And she was arrested. So while Coleman didn't press charges, she was still charged with fourth-degree domestic violence. Richardson stayed in custody for about 19 hours before being released on Monday of July 28th. So according to jail records obtained by People magazine, that she was in an altercation, but it wasn't really an altercation because he was like defending himself, and you could tell that he did not want any part of like her aggressiveness. And she basically, acknowledged that she was arrested, and he made a statement. So he said, "I feel like it was just a sucky situation all around," Coleman told reporters outside the U.S. Championship on Sunday. So I do say that we have to remember that we cannot put our hands on people. We cannot harass people, even if we are in a relationship with them. We have to respect other people's spaces, and we have to respect other people's energy. Unfortunately, she could have been acting out of passion, but so do many other of these people who create some type of violence or some type of aggressiveness. So just because you're a woman doesn't necessarily mean that you have the right to put your hands on a man. And if this was the other way around, she would have been getting ripped to shreds by the media. They would have been like, oh, playing that video over and over and over again. So I think we just really need to have that conscious space that even though you are the woman, and you still do not have the right to put your hands on anybody. Also, this was occurring right around the Mercury direct in Leo, and around the time of the Mars in Libra trines Pluto in Aquarius. And with Mars trining in Libra, we see the energy of justice, and also Pluto in Aquarius, the area of the collective seeing, and how the collective is allowing people to communicate this as Mercury has gone direct in Leo. So that retrograde was very interesting. I will say a lot did happen with that retrograde. But just because the retrograde is over doesn't mean that stuff didn't stop hitting the media sources. So also the National Guard troops appear in Washington, D.C. as mayors reject Trump's authoritarian push. So Trump has definitely been getting some backlash. I mean, he's always getting backlash. And he's just been directing the National Guard troops. Supposedly they're supposed to maybe come to Oakland, which is going to be very interesting because I don't know. I just think in some ways crime has gone down, they're saying, in Washington and also in Oakland, but I feel like Trump is definitely targeting the Democratic states. And he says, on August 14th of 2025, the U.S. National Guard, Trump has begun appearing on the streets of Washington, the National Guard, to help deploy troops to basically take control and the city, to take control of the city. So a lot of people are feeling definitely some types of way about this. And he also threatened to send deployments to New York, Chicago, and also all the cities that are controlled by Democrats. So he's just basically, but we have to remember that there's other states that have problems as well with crime. It's not just the Democratic states. And he said that crime is on the rise in the cities of Washington, although recent data has showed that crime has actually been at the lowest levels by far. So that's very interesting. But Trump is going to do what Trump wants to do. And that occurred right around the time Mercury in Leo sextiles Mars in Libra, which really sharpens our area of logic and our area of boundaries and negotiations. So very, very, very interesting. Trump and Gavin Newsom's have literally, or is it Newsom's or Newsom's have literally been going head to head on social media. And Gavin has just been posting all these like fiery memes. And I really think he is firing up for a political election. A lot of people are saying that they feel that Trump is going to definitely try to run again or somehow still be in the office. But what was also interesting is that Gavin Newsom's social media edge is being driven by Camille Zapata, who is a 29-year-old Latina from, I believe, Stockton, California. And she is the head team member of his digital team and head of the press office. She has a small staff that craft freaking fast, witty, sharp responses. And she has been contributed to getting his TikTok from 500,000 followers to 1.5 million. So she's really knows what she's doing when we think about PR and getting into the younger population. So Zapata told this report that from Mary Claire that she approaches it with a mix of humor, pop culture, and precise timing. That every post is thought out for and often cleared through legal review. The team monitors breaking the news daily worthy topics and basically creating them to become memes. So the Stockton native studied cultural anthropology at US Santa Cruz and is now a grad student at the USC Annenberg, and previously worked for the former Stockton mayor, Michael Tubbs, where she also serves as the president of the California Women's List, supporting women candidates. So good for her, because Gavin's been on fire lately with the memes, and people are just rushing to his TikTok or his Twitter just to basically see what he is going to say next. And this was definitely occurring right around the time Mercury in Leo sextiles Mars in Libra. So we definitely see that energy of communication, justice, and the area of creativity. Definitely kind of creating a lead. I mean, the fact that she was able to get his TikTok up to 1.5 million and still growing. Then we've had some very controversial topics with the Menendez brothers. So it looks like they were denied parole. I will be honest, I was very surprised that they were denied parole. I thought for sure that they would get parole. I kept seeing 28, so maybe in the year of 28. I don't know, but I kept feeling like the energy of 28. And I honestly thought that something was going to happen this year for them. But it looks like the only thing that happened for both Kyle and Eric Menendez is they were both denied parole. So that's unfortunate. I do feel like, and for those who have heard the birth chart reading, I definitely feel that there was some aspects about money and greed tied into it. But I do believe that the abuse did occur. I don't feel like people can just harm their parents just because the parent is controlling or just for money. I mean, was it just for money? I do really believe abuse did occur, which unfortunately does impact the mind, and it does create a lot of trauma. And, you know, there were definitely a lot of aspects in that. So definitely check out that birth chart reading on the YouTube channel. I have a playlist dedicated to birth charts. Also, for those who are interested, I am recording right now August 22nd. August 23rd around 7:48 a.m. And we still have some energy of August 25th, Venus and Leo. August 25th also has Venus and Leo trine Saturn and Aries. And so we'll see what happens. And then on the 26th, we have Venus and Leo opposite Pluto in Aquarius, which will probably be around the time I release this podcast. And then also August 28th, we have Uranus and Gemini sextiles Neptune in Aries. So let's get into the astrology for the month of September. As always, we do like to concentrate on the reflections, and we kind of see how the energy has moved around, what has occurred, the topics that we've always concentrated on. And I will say that I love doing the reflections because it kind of lets me see how certain aspects in the cosmos affect. Here we are. As above, so below. So let's get into the astrology for September. Now, the astrology for September, I'm going to tell you the truth, girl. Tell you the truth, honey. Cosmic body, the first week, babe. The first week. And I feel like the mutable signs is getting the best of it. So September 1st, Saturn Retrograde enters Pisces. So this definitely feels like an energy shift. Saturn's already in retrograde in Aries, but it's shifting back to the retrogrades of before, back to the energy of when Pisces was holding Saturn so close in its dream like illusions and inner truths. This retrograde whispers that we still might be under some chain in our spiritual essence. And it's also a perfect time for us to let Saturn release some of the energy that has been holding us back, that we haven't been able to change our fantasy into actual reality. I also think this would be a good time to understand the presence of the ancestors, and also understanding the area of responsibilities when it comes to inner truths, and also energies around releasing some of the inner truth, and also releasing some energies of battle. Where are we picking our battles in our spiritual presence? Are we continuing to go back to the same battle and not really seeing any outlook that feels like an improvement for us? And is it time for us to just kind of wipe our hands and our feet clean, and clean that energy away? Also, September 2nd, we have Mercury enters Virgo. I feel like a lot of talking is going to go on, a lot of messages, a lot of downloads of media, maybe areas around domestication, maybe areas around feminine, but just a very energy that feels very witchy. And it also feels very non-conformed. And Mercury over the next few weeks, being with Virgo, will definitely give that energy around commitments of healing, teaching, and serving the others. Not necessarily the collective, but definitely the coven, and serving the energy of messages, and how the energy of messages speak volume, and the energy of the feminine. Also, around this time of September 3rd, we have Mercury in Virgo squares Uranus in Gemini. So I definitely feel like it's going to be a little bit chaotic, and is also going to be a little bit of a plot twist and inner movement. And there definitely is going to be a lot of conversation around this time. It's definitely a high energy week, and there's going to be some type of surprise, maybe interpersonal surprise, but I also feel like there's going to be something kind of very surprising for the collective, and also something very kind of hostile. There's a lot of talk going on with a peace deal with Russia and Ukraine and Trump. And I wonder if something's going to occur with that because Virgo, we have the energy of the goddess of wheat. And Ukraine is known for their wheat production, which is very interesting. And also the energy of Gemini. Trump's the Gemini. So it's going to be interesting to see kind of like what happens around September 3rd, if any changes, if any news is going to come out about that topic. But definitely we'll be looking and seeing. Also, September 4th, we have Mars in Libra squares Jupiter in Cancer. So the impulses to like run, to move, to create, to very like get almost like bigger might be there. There might also be some challenges with justice. I wouldn't necessarily do any justice magic around this time, around a square. I would want more of like a trine energy, but sometimes we kind of like have to realize that sometimes justice isn't necessarily the spell or the hex we need to do. Sometimes it needs to be protection and protecting our energy and also protecting the area of energy around us. Also, around September 5th, we have Uranus retrograde in Gemini. The rebel planet is definitely turning its mixture around. So it's going to be interesting to see. I feel like, in all honesty, the collective's illusions might be having like a little bit of resting energy. And also the illusions might kind of get more of a taste of reality. I feel like people are still rebellious, but it's going to be interesting to see how this energy shifts, especially with the collective here in the US, since Gemini is the solar energy of our leader. So there's definitely some energy of truth, making waves around media, and also the energy of movement of what is going to occur, what is going to be the next battle. I feel like the collective, my heart goes out to people who have devoted so much time to be like an activist and to advocate for others and to advocate for the collective. But also I feel like the collective needs to do an interpersonal check-in and a clearing. Because sometimes when we're just led with so much energy that is focused on and I don't want to say negativity, but almost like energy that is focused on disheveling and change, and we don't feel the change coming, or we don't see the change occurring, it can be very hard, right? It can be very hard on us. And this has to do with everything, not just advocation and not just activism, but, it can be very hard with us as a whole when we see we feel like we've made so much progress as a collective. And then we see something that occurs, like, for instance, the Sydney Sweeney ad. And we see that something like that is kind of like a slap in the face, right? It makes you wonder, is it worth that energy? Is it worth that fight? And how are you fighting that battle? So also allowing yourself the clearing and the resilience to kind of take back into your own worth and your own movement and your own communication and that own rebel inside you, so you can fight again. And so you can create an energy of disturbing the hierarchy, as someone would say, right? Disturbing the energy of leadership, but doing it in a way where it preserves yours. Also, around September 7th, we have the eclipse season starting, and we have a lunar eclipse full moon in Pisces, and the shadow energy is here for you dreamy moon lovers. I don't create huge intentions around eclipses. That's something that I just do not do. Eclipses are seen as portals, doors, and also the energy of shadow. And some feel like the veils kind of lift and shift. And I do more of clearing and shadow work, seeing how I can improve. I have so many podcasts and so much talking about shadow work and eclipse season that you can definitely listen to that on the podcast. I also have a lot of meditations. The YouTube channel is a great source because the YouTube channel has everything in a playlist where versus the podcast, you can't like search a playlist, right? You can't search like meditation playlist. You can't search the playlist about like, I don't think I have a playlist for shadow work. Maybe I should create a playlist for shadow work, but you can't necessarily search the podcast like you would have to search the title. And I have like, I don't know, probably almost like 300 podcasts. So definitely head over to the YouTube channel if you want to find stuff about shadow work and meditations. I know I have some. And journaling, a lot of journaling during shadow work. Also, September 12th, high energy day, we have Sun in Virgo, sextiles Jupiter in Cancer, Mercury in Virgo, sextiles Jupiter in Cancer, honey. A lot of movement. We also have a Kazemi kissing, a little kissy of the Sun and the Mercury, as we have Sun in Virgo conjunct Mercury in Virgo on September 13th. So we definitely feel like our cosmic energy is there. This is some good movement to really create intentions, even though we just are coming from an eclipse, but definitely around September 12th and 13th, because we also have Vesta inter Sagittarius. So this energy of solving puzzles, speaking, getting centered with our craft speaks a lot of volume, especially around the feminine and communication, and energies of allowing our inner light of curiosity to move, explore, and expand. And that is definitely happening around September 12th all the way to the 15th, because we also have on September 15th Venus in sextiles Leo. Venus in Leo sextiles Mars in Libra. So definitely that feels romantic. It feels flirtatious, divine, and it feels very attractive. I would definitely create a honey jar. I would also definitely create some area of confidence magic right around Venus in Leo sextiles Mars in Libra. What's interesting is I feel like a lot of people don't talk about confidence, relaxation, the energy of self-care, and how the area of alchemy really plays out, right? Just allowing yourself that self-care, allowing yourself that time to meditate, allowing yourself that time to clear, because people just are always seen to like attracting, right? One of the biggest attraction spells you can ever do is when you feed into yourself, when you feed into making yourself feel more aligned with the cosmic energy around you, allowing yourself to feel a little bit more beautiful, allowing yourself to feel a little bit more put together, a little bit more relaxed, a little bit more soft, a little bit more powerful. Allowing yourself that energy of lust and desire and feeling aligned within automatically creates an attraction. And people who have like magnetic auras and who have auras who really speak volume, because that's just kind of like the way they were born. Sometimes it comes a little bit easier, but for some people, femininity, softness, that flirtatious divine energy of not just being seen, but also being heard can take some practice, and it can take some movement where you practice your craft, you practice that confidence, you practice the way you talk to yourself. And we definitely want to be mindful about this when it comes to our energy, because Mercury in Virgo is opposite Saturn in Pisces right around September 17th. So the cosmic energy is almost like we might have some negative self-talk and we might be pouring too much energy into negativity as Saturn is slowly in retrograde in Pisces. So we might be feeling like our dreams are not moving, and we might have that energy where we're not feeding into ourselves. So definitely take that time around the 15th, because the 17th is kind of like an opposition for us. And it is a time where we might feel a little bit more challenged. Also on September 18th, we have Mercury enters Libra. So the energy of communication, the love language, the energy of love spells, that charisma of really making a harmony in connections and the way we communicate. One of the most powerful things with communication, especially when it comes with interest of love and interest of desire and interest of people being like obsessed with you in a healthy way. We have to remember that Mercury is the energy of communication. Your throat chakra is the energy of communication. The way you think is the energy of communication, the way you communicate. So some of the most potent love spells is you really actually are telling somebody how much they love you. And sometimes that sounds crazy, but it's true. Sometimes people need to be told, you know, you love me so much, you can't live without me, you love me so much, you know, I am the best person in your mystical energy. I am the one that floats through your brain. You know, you've never felt a love like this. And sometimes you have to remind them, right? Because sometimes there's people who will be stroking their ego or showing them a little bit of confidence when you're not there. We have to remember that if you are interested in a person, if you have a commitment with a person, if you have a relationship with a person, you have to remind them how important they are in your relationship, how important they are to you, how much you desire them, how much you are attracted to them, how much they are also attracted to you, because there's always somebody out there who wants what you have. There is always somebody out there trying to get their way to a life that you have already created. There is somebody out there who's looking at your life and they feel like it is perfect. They don't see the obstacles, they don't see the challenges, they just see the success. Right? So you have to understand that you have to keep that energy within you, keep that energy flowing with your relationships. And I feel like women, especially my age of women, when we're in like our late 40s to early 50s, and we've been with somebody for so long, it's hard for us to remind that person, ooh, you make me desire you. I'm lustful over you. You're very attractive to me. I just want to eat you up. You know what I mean? Like, it's just something that sometimes we forget to do because maybe we're busy. Life is just taking a hold of us. Also on September 18th, we have Mercury opposite Neptune, trine Uranus, trine Pluto. So this is definitely a whirlwind of magic. Illusions, definitely there. The fog is in the air, but innovation and taking our power back could have a breakthrough. And we definitely need to be cautious around this time because there's going to be a lot of gossip. There's going to be a lot of trust issues. And we might want to lean into the area of preserving our charisma, preserving our energy for ourselves. So just kind of be, you know, a little bit aware that this energy is definitely dominant on September 18th. And also September 19th, we have Venus enters Virgo. So definitely that energy of the virgin archetype and the energy of analyzation, of purity, the energy of domestication, the energy of being detail orientated, of sacred and feminine, really kind of takes a twist with the relationships and also with the interpersonal relationships. September 20th, we also have Venus in Virgo squares Uranus and Gemini. Relationships kind of might be feeling a little bit hostile. So if we haven't been centered around our magic, around our relationships, that's going to be something that we look at too. Remember, you have to feed your relationship, and that counts for all relationships. It counts for your relationships with your ancestors, with your parents, with your spiritual presence. You have to feed your energy with the earth. You have to feed the energy with your plants. You have to take care of your plants. You have to take care of your relationship. You have to take care of your animals. You have to take care of your relationships with your children. You have to take care of the relationships with your aunts, your tias, your uncles. You have to take care of a lot of relationships. And when we don't give that energy to our relationships, our energy will not grow in those relationships. That the relationship will not grow. And I think sometimes women are now being so independent that, and a lot of the independence has to do with the overuse of toxic masculinity. And women are tired of being lied to, they're tired of being cheated on, that they just decide, I just do not want to be in a relationship anymore with a man. And I think that sometimes women forget how to feed into their relationship because they build so many walls, right? And that's, and if that's something that you've done, totally, I would say I totally understand. But if you feel like now you are in a relationship that's important to you, remember to please feed it. Also, we have the solar eclipse, new moon in Virgo. So this will be our second new moon. We just today had a new moon in Virgo, and this is definitely solar eclipse time. The solar eclipse, new moon in Virgo, there's going to be some self-mastery, beginnings, new beginnings of clearings I would do, and cleansings, and also preparing for the end of fall. September 22nd, we have Mars enter Scorpio. September 22nd, high energy day. Sun enters Libra, fall equinox, and Mabon. And day and night equalizes, which is reminding us of the cycles, the justice, the harmony, the honor. That's turning our movement from patience, right? Turning our movement to have more patience, to see the offerings of both the dualities, of both the polarities, of the feminine, of the masculine, the offerings of gratitude, the offerings of change, the offerings of letting certain cycles close, especially with eclipses, understanding that portal, sometimes walking through the next movement, the next realm comes with some area of letting certain people go. Also letting certain movements and old practices go. Also, the sun is opposite of Neptune, trine Uranus, and trine Pluto on September 23rd. So with this energy, I feel like some of us might be very, very tired of energy vampires, and people who just take advantage of us. And unfortunately, a lot of old feelings for me of people taking advantage of me have come up. It's almost like a cycle that's come up from the past that I've had to clear, I've had to resolve, and just see where I lie with my justice, where I lie with my own energy. And it's very sad because there's times where you realize that you continue to evolve as an individual, and certain people stay dormant, certain people stay stagnant. And this is when you look and you acknowledge that you are the protector of your own energy. Your inner circle, your area of polarity can attract negativity as well as it attracts positivity, but it's up for you to break that connection. It's up for you to break that magnetic connection, that energy cycle, where you allow that energy to no longer hold presence in your life. So allowing that breakthrough and allowing that unexpected change, because sometimes we have to remember, and one of my favorite I guess podcasters or content creators says that sometimes rejection is protection. And sometimes understanding that things that do not serve us sometimes are taken away from us or are shown to us because they are not meant to be in our life cycle. They are not meant to be in our life. That is God, that is the universe, that is Buddha, that is Hecate, that is the ancestors, that is the energy of the sun, the energy of the moon protecting us, right? So whoever your energy source is, that's that energy protecting you by removing that energy from out of your life. Also on September 24th, we have Mars in Scorpio squares Pluto in Aquarius. Fun time. Fun time, said no one. Definitely clash of the egos, definitely clash of the fixed, clash of the power struggles, the polarity again. So don't get so caught up in the actual winning the battle, because sometimes winning the battle, right? What is the battle? What is the war when people are gone, right? What is the war? What is the war of winning when there is no true winner, because there's so much energy that takes place. And that could feel hostile, that could feel abrupt. So I just remind everybody to like, comment, and please share this podcast with your witchy bestie. And have a great day, an amazing month of September. Bye.